Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into my top 25 after week 1 results in college football. Let's get it going. Starting with number 1, Ohio State. They take down number 1 Texas. So to me, you take down the number 1 team, you are the number 1 team. They do that at home. They were also the third-rated team going into this, and it just looked like a defense that was simply overpowering. You got to think about all the weapons Texas had going into that game, and they really made Arch Manning look lost. So good job by the Buckeyes, and despite, again, losing some guys to the draft last year, they are now the number 1 team again to me after the national championship. At number 2, Penn State, the Nittany Lions, they took care of business against Nevada, and it was hard to really take too much of that game just because they were such big favorites, so they can honestly name the score, and so they were kind of just going through the motions, I would believe, with the Lions not trying to show too much, but they are one of the top teams to me. They won the game. It wasn't anything ridiculously impressive, but they're going to retain the 2 spot. Texas at number 3, and they just lost that game against Ohio State, but they did outgain the Buckeyes, and there were a number of factors that looked impressive. To honestly have Arch Manning looking like he was very confused out there, just not having his best day. The footwork was off, kind of the rhythm, some bad throws, everything like that. For the Texas quarterback to still only lose by 7, honestly, with all that going on the road, wasn't too bad, and they also did put some things together, and also had a great defensive game plan against Ohio State themselves, so I'm going to put Texas at 3. Moving on to number 4, Oregon, and they were number 7 previously, but I have them at 4, and keep in mind for some of these rankings, I didn't make a week 0 where I would have re-ranked the teams differently than the AP poll, so just looking at that, some of these teams weren't even in there, but I would have had them in there and a lot higher up to begin the season, so they didn't just move up, 20 spots for beating some no-name team, just to keep in mind. Although Montana State is not no-name for the Ducks, they do take care of business and win 59-13, the final score, and just looked like everything that was going there. They obviously had a number of different rushing yards and passing yards were completely split. Dante Moore looked great in his first start, so Oregon again takes care of business against Montana State. They're number 4, LSU at 5. They were number 9, but they beat number 4 Clemson on the road, looked great in doing it, and very impressive for Brian Kelly and company. I picked this team to win the national title, and I think this is a big step in the right direction. Plus for Garrett Nussmeier, he's already got a leg up on the Heisman when you go in there and win in game 1 and look very well doing so against the top team. Moving on to Georgia, they're number 6 to me, and they take care of business against Marshall. Another game where they could have really manhandled that team, so it's hard to really take too much from it. Marshall kind of a downtrodden FBS program right now, but you look at Georgia and they look very good. They're one of the top SEC teams to me, and you're just trying to see if they can build some momentum going into conference play. Moving on, Ole Miss. This is a prime team I was talking about. I would have had them much higher than the AP did to begin the year, but I got them at 7, and they did pounce on Georgia State, another team that is kind of down there, but honestly, they've got some players in recent years, so Ole Miss with an impressive win to me there, and they looked really good. They're obviously replacing Jackson Dart at the quarterback spot, but didn't have too many issues. And at number 8, Miami, they do win last night. Very impressive to me, and the way they looked against Notre Dame was great. That's a game that they've lost historically a lot during this era where they've tried to figure it out after not winning a national title, but they end up with a 3-point win, and you end up sealing the deal with that field goal 47 yards away by Carter Davis. But Carson Beck also looked very good, didn't make any mistakes, and ultimately Notre Dame with the 2 turnovers cost themselves the game, so I'll move Miami up a few spots, but I can't really kind of move them up too far because again, all these other teams in front of them did win. And Clemson, I do drop them back after losing to LSU, and they are going to suffer a few spots. This should still be a good team that makes the playoff and everything, but some people definitely seems like they might have been overrating their returning production and stuff like that, so I have the Tigers dropping back to 9. I'm sure they'll figure it out offensively as the year goes along, especially with Cade Klubnik now being into his 4th season and looked good last year. Florida at number 10, kind of not sure what to do with this team. I think this is right about where they stand, and they did take care of business against Long Island, but again, that's a team that is definitely overmatched in that situation, and we will see if this, Billy Napier team can really start to turn it around, because last year they were not as impressive. Notre Dame at 11, they do lose the game, but I can't slide them back too much. It was, again, their turnovers that shot themselves in the foot, probably cost them the game. Otherwise, they could have definitely won that, and considering you had a freshman guy in there in CJ Carr in his first start, didn't look too bad in that situation. So Notre Dame, keep in mind, last year they got to the national title and lost to Northern Illinois, so they had their humps, but they still overcame that as the season went along, and I think that's the same thing here. South Carolina at 12, another SEC team. This team is in line to be pretty good this season. Could be a little overrated this time of the year, but they did take care of business against Virginia Tech. 24-11 the win against the team on Sunday, and they pulled away pretty late, took advantage of some mistakes by Virginia Tech. At 13, I got Texas A&M, and I would rate this team a little higher than the AP poll did to begin the year. Now, not that impressive against UTSA, a 42-24 win, or at least wasn't anything like Oregon had maybe maybe you could say, but at the end of the day, they did look pretty good in that situation. And getting a little faster here, Auburn at 14. This is a team that I thought should have been in the AP top 25. They were not, but they're coming in at 14 for me. They beat Baylor by 14 on the road. Honestly, in the first game of the year, that's a situation where you could look slow offensively, but they dropped 38 there, which is great for the Tigers. They've had some good recruiting classes. I got them at 14. And number 15, Tennessee. They win there against Syracuse, a steady win, and pretty good for this program. Again, they lost their star quarterback at the beginning of the season in the spring, but to kind of replace him and still look decent going into this season was really good for the Volunteers. We'll see what they do as the game moves along. But number 16, Crimson Tide, they lose to Florida State by 14. Pretty obvious at this point, it is not the same team as it is under Kalen DeBoer as it was under Nick Saban, but I think we all expected that, and we're just going to have to see how much we have to shift the expectation, though, as this team continues to try and figure it out. Number 17, Southern Cal. I think the Trojans looked really good, and this is more of the Lincoln Riley team that, I expected to see, just a historic offensive day. That's exactly what you get out of his teams. They really beat the brakes off Missouri State, and they're in a Big Ten that is very tough. That's the issue with them, and we'll see if the defense holds up as the season goes along. I'm sure USC is going to find ways to score points, but very impressive opening win against Missouri State. At 18, I have the Michigan Wolverines. To me, they didn't look that great against New Mexico, but again, they are facing quite a bit of program distraction, and they're also with a freshman quarterback, so kind of a fun storyline, I think, with Bryce Underwood as far as how much can we let this guy go and score for us and just see what he's got in the future, because this team's definitely going to have to build back up a kind of roster the way they've done it to maybe vie for another national title. But at 19, Texas Tech, this team I have winning the Big 12 this year, and they look great against Arkansas Pine Bluff, but hard to take too much from it knowing where Arkansas Pine Bluff is, but they win by 60, and the offense looked like a Big 12 team, putting that kind of number up, 47-0 at halftime. Baron Morton looked great, 4 touchdowns as well. And then SMU at 20. This is a team that, kind of under the radar still in the ACC. We forget they made the college football playoff, and they looked pretty good against East Texas A&M, but again, hard to make too much from it. I am sure they were hiding some things for future opponents because they didn't want to reveal too much. And 21, Utah breaking into the top 25 here. The Utes look very good against UCLA, and that's a UCLA team. We're going into year 2 of that head coach thought they might have had a better showing than a 33-point home loss, but that was what Utah did. They are a very steady program. They're never going to be outside the top 25 to me, really. I mean, very good. They're at 21. Missouri breaking into the top 25 here. They were kind of a fringe top 25 team, I think, going into the season. They did receive votes, but, the way they're looking, I'm putting them at 22. They win against Central Arkansas, 61-6. The offense looked good, and especially Bo Pubula, who was the guy that was coming out of Penn State, 283 yards, 2 touchdowns, rush for 2. Looks like a dual-threat quarterback that can provide problems for the opposing defenses. And Oklahoma at 23, speaking of SEC, they beat Illinois State on Saturday night, looked pretty good. And the big thing for Oklahoma is, will they improve their offense from last year? They're no longer starting Jackson Arnold, and it looks like they're off to the right start. So I think the Sooners can compete in the SEC and win some games. Louisville at number 24, to me, they look good against Eastern Kentucky as we might expected, but I also thought they maybe should have been in the top 25 to begin the season, so they kind of stay put for me. And Miller Moss, the transfer from USC, looked pretty good, so we'll see how that storyline develops. In at 25, Arizona State, arguably not even a top 25 team, but I'll give them some benefit of the doubts. I don't know why they're 11. To me, they should be further back. I hate putting them there because it was such a fun season last year. It was awesome to see them almost beat Texas, but at the end of the day, they did have a lot of guys leaving, and they also are a target for regression with a lot of their close wins, but they still beat Northern Arizona, and ultimately, look, they're 1-0 going into the next game, so we'll see what happens. Just to go over the drop teams real quick from the AP poll, I had Illinois, Iowa State, Indiana, Kansas State, and Boise State out for this week, and the new teams that were not in the AP poll. Again, I'll be comparing this to my poll next week, but Auburn, Southern California, Utah, Louisville, and Missouri jump in. So that does it for the video, guys. Make sure you check out all the social medias on screen. Also, be sure to check out some of the other videos on the channel. Subscribe if you haven't. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for more content.